Hello, everybody. Welcome to Ballin with Bill here. It's great to have you all here, and thank you, Sideline Power, for this opportunity. I'd like to welcome my guest, Lou Varley. Lou's been a longtime coach, known him since he was at Nebraska City as the head football coach. Been good friends with him a long time, so it's an honor to have you here today,
Well,
Coach.
great to be here, Bill.
So let's start at the beginning. When you were a young man, like we all were at one time, how'd you get started in football?
It's kind of a long story. I started out I was going to be a math teacher. Whatever reason, I graduated in 1970 for high school, and I don't know. Was going to be a math teacher and physics teacher, and kind of like my father would follow in his footsteps, and wasn't really thinking too much about coaching. But then I always say I walked on at the University of Nebraska and crawled off, is how I always say it. So, but I did walk on in spring of one year, and I just got to be around a kind of a different way of coaching. I mean, Coach Osborne was an assistant there. He would run the entire circuit. I bet we were out there for an hour. He'd run for an hour, and every group that was out there, he came by and would pat you on the back. We had Coach Cletus Fisher. He knew my name and shouldn't have for any reason because I was just barely a player. And but it seemed like they took an interest in you as a person, and I started thinking, well, that's kind of how I'd like, if I was going to coach, that's what I'd like to do. So that got me started, and I've always, if I got a chance, I've always thanked Coach Osborne for just kind of lighting that little fire in me, and then had a great chance to do kind of a practicum student teaching experience at Lincoln High School, and got to work with Jerry Ball, Marv Mueller, and help with the varsity football program. A guy named Bill Story, who ended up going back to Lincoln Northeast. I worked with him in the weight room, and he taught me the ins and outs of the throwing events and track, and I coached that my whole career. That's right. So a lot of that goes back to just kind of it was lucky for me to be in the right place at the right time because it got me started in a great profession that I always say I never worked a day in my life except a couple summers I had to work construction, but other than that, I got up every day and just went and had fun, and then lo and behold, they gave me a paycheck. So it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it isn't a bad deal. So now, where'd you play high school ball at, Lou?
Bridgeport High School, home of the Bulldogs. So way out west, I say it's God's country because nobody but God will have it. But it's about 35 miles east of Scottsbluff. Grew up in the Panhandle, and then decided I was going to go as far away from home as I could. So I went to University of Nebraska Lincoln, and then my first job was at Superior High School as assistant coach, assistant football, assistant wrestling, and assistant track. So, and then taught. I was lucky that an older teacher had retired, and I took her class load, which was all upper level math. So I got to teach trigonometry and all those things right out of the gate, which for a young teacher it doesn't always happen. So
how'd you prepare for all that?
I hung on because I had Lee Barfnick, who just retired from the World Herald. He was in my trig class, and he was way smarter than me. He could have been anything he wanted, but he loved sports, and so that class was really good class to start with. I had to study hard just to stay ahead of him, but it was a fun experience. Had a lot of fun there.
Good. So now, when you started coaching, what kind of philosophy did you enter when you started coaching?
Well, I kind of,
this changed a lot through your years.
I've been around. The University of Nebraska and saw what they were doing, in the early 70s. And then when I went to start my coaching career at Superior, the head coach is a guy named Pat Avey, and he was a slot I formation guy, and we ran triple option, power, toss, counter with the wing. And it's pretty standard I formation stuff. A lot of it came from Kearney, what they'd done with Claire Boroff. And so that's kind of where I started. And had always been some kind of option team as we came along. So ran some wishbone, ran Maryland I, actually ran triple out of the Maryland I, and then we ran a little bit of split back veer over the period of time and went back and forth from the I. And then once I got to Peru, Coach Snyder was the head coach, and he knew the triple, and we ran flexbone mainly. It evolved to that, but now we're a gun spread team, but in reality we're still an option football team because we're going to read people and we're going to make decisions based off their actions. So I've always liked that concept of reading people, whether it's from under center or now in the gun. But I think it goes back to that slot eye formation I first learned coming up. So that's
that
kind
was
of my
big in
roots.
Nebraska, and we kind of
Yeah, kind of Nebraska oriented. A lot of it came right out of Kearney's playbook, UNK. At that time, it was Kearney State College. So
right.
yeah,
Oh, Claire Boroff, yeah.
yep, Claire Boroff
Yeah.
stuff.
So where was your first head coaching job?
It was at Friend. So I was at Superior for 4 years, was an assistant there. And then I went to Friend, which is, at that time, we were a small Class C 11-man team. And I was the head football coach, AD, junior high wrestling / assistant wrestling, and head boys track coach. And taught math, physics, and chemistry, and a PE class. And ran the weight room. So, I mean, that's pretty typical in small schools.
Yeah,
That's,
you do about everything.
I tell our kids that are in education majors, I said, hey, you better know a little bit about everything, because if you go to a smaller school, that's where your job's at, you're going to end up doing a lot of different things. And just, it's really it's working with people and trying to develop people and treat them right. And after that, if you don't know something, go study, go sit down, talk to somebody, you can learn. So. But it's more of a people business than anything. But yeah, I started out a Friend. I was there 5 years. Went to Ravenna. Was there 5 years. Had great kids, great community. Very talented, hardworking. Just top. I mean, if you start looking at the kids I got to coach when I was at Ravenna for those 5 years, and we had good kids at Friend too. Everywhere I've been, we've had great kids, and I think that's been a blessing. But we were really pretty blessed at Ravenna. Had good years, and then I went to Nebraska City and was there 20 years, and then took the early retirement and started helping at Peru. So that was 13 years ago I started that. So
When you first started head coach, how did you, when you first go into a place, did you put your stamp on it as far as what you expected and everything from your student athletes?
The big thing is we were going to be physical. We've always wanted to do that. I mean, football is a physical game, so we wanted to be physical. Effort's always been a big thing for me. Those two things, we talk about what you can control. You can control your effort level. You can be a tough football player. You can be physical. Take pride in that. Obviously, you can control your attitude. Those are the things that you can control. And I picked that up, from basically the Nebraska staff on. Everywhere you talk to, you start talking to people, and that's what you really hear is control the things you have control over. Things will happen to you, but you control how you react to them. Can't control a lot of the things that happen to you. So, we talk a lot about effort and attitude. We want to be physical. We want to, we felt like it's it's a collision sport if you can. But we wanted to be physical, and we felt like no matter what our talent level was, we could achieve those things every year. So that's kind of where we hung our hat, and how we went about achieving that, changed based on your personnel and things like that. But that's it.
Yeah. So you've adjusted your personnel and to your personnel.
To our personnel, we were a slot eye team, and then if we ran a wishbone a little bit, we felt like we had more backs that could. We could get the ball to. Plus, it helps your whole line a little bit.
Right.
Adds an extra blocker. It's point of attack a lot of times. I know we were in the Maryland Eye, but then we got tired of seeing a middle monster, and they put 10 in the box and just started really tightening it down on us. And we thought, well, we got to do something different. And at that time, Midland was running split back veer, and we went and talked to them.
With Watchorn
and it came from Watchorn, and then Coach Snyder was there.
Right.
And they had got a lot from Jerry Kill, who had run a lot of split back veer when he was at Pittsburgh State and Saginaw Valley. And so we went and talked to them, and it seemed to fit our personnel, and we ran that for about 3 or 4 years. And then we had a string of things where we lost all but one of our real halfbacks, and then we had to put a tight end in the backfield, and he was not a halfback. So we put him at fullback and ran the same offense, but just out of the I formation, but still ran all the same plays. In fact, our O-line didn't even know we changed the backfield.
Well, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So blocking's the same.
Blocking's all the same. It was all the same schemes, all the same terminology. It's just who was the dive back. Well, in this case, it was our fullback was the dive back every time. We didn't run out of the split back look. So as personnel comes along, you have to be able to adjust. But I think you still live by and operate by your basic concept. We were always going to read people, we felt like. And once we got to understand it well, we're always going to run some kind of inside veer action. So we've kept that going forward. We even out of the gun, and they don't call it inside veer, but we run inside veer out of the gun.
Gotcha.
We just have a different terminology for it, but it really is inside veer. So, that's a play I guess I've always hung my hat on once we started to understand it. That it doesn't matter. You don't need big tight ends. You can run it out a lot of formations,
True.
and it really can put a lot of stress on the defense. But that's if and we went through a little time when our O line was not the biggest, strongest group, and we got in the gun. And the main reason we got in the gun is to get people out of the box,
Right.
and make it a little easier for our guys up front, not have to block everybody. So, but still ran the same offense, just lined up a little different.
What is the difference between an inside veer and the midline?
Well, the midline is going to attack a gap. You're
Right.
going to read the first defender on or outside the guard.
Right.
So, and then the inside veer is really attacking B gap. You're going to read the first man on or outside your tackle. So usually the attack started with inside veer, and then people would put that 3-tech to the side they thought you were running to, and they would
Right.
fire him up the field, try to blow up the mesh.
Right.
Well, then that's where the midline came from.
Gotcha.
So now they just let that guy run up the field. The guard releases up, tackle turns out, and you can run the midline as a double option, whether it's either a give or a quarterback keep or follow.
Mm-hmm.
But we went down when we were triple option under center. We went and talked to the guys at Harding who kind of started the midline triple concept,
Right.
where it's a triple option, but you're running it as a midline play instead of an inside veer play. Now you got to be careful about the count on the perimeter, because you can get outnumbered against some fronts, but against a lot of fronts, especially odd fronts, you're reading the same guy, but the midline is a lot further removed from that 5-tech that you're reading in the odd front, and they have to come down. And for whatever reason, the nature of that play, everybody sucks in. When you run inside veer, you get these guys coming down, and the backside just comes screaming over the top.
Right.
And you get extra guys into the count. But in the midline, that fullback's running right up the heart of the defense, and the defense constricts, and then you get the ball pitched on the perimeter. So if you watch Navy, Air Force, all those guys,
Right.
they run a combination of those two.
Right.
They'll run inside veer, they'll run midline double, and then they'll run midline triple. And then the two big plays that have come now are it's a zone dive. It's really a zone play to the fullback, but it looks like inside veer. And but you block how they're playing the inside veer from inside out. You block those guys, and you turn out on the 5-tech, and now the fullback's getting the ball. It's a pretty turn handoff, but it
Right.
looks like inside veer. A lot of people mistake it, and then off of that they run a quarterback keep play, and that's predetermined. That's the big play. When Navy had the good quarterback 2 years ago, I bet they ran that play 70% of the time, and
Right.
he just ripped people with it. But again, he got a great athlete and people blocking for him. So, but I think everything kind of builds it. Even though you may not run the inside veer as much, they might be taking it away from you. You start with that play, and then everything that they're doing to counter that play sets up all the other plays.
Yeah.
And that's pretty simple. Anything you do you're a wing T team.
Yeah.
All right. How are they stopping the buck sweep?
Buck sweep, yeah.
And then you run trap, and then if you want to jump that, then you run the bootleg. Everything's in series, and you got an answer for it. And that was the thing I found, is that the longer I was in coaching, the more I wanted to make sure I had answers and not have, just see a play at a clinic and throw it in our offense.
It's gotta
and
fit
not
the
and not
scheme.
know it.
Yeah.
You got to go study it and know it, and then your kids. You got answers for your kids. It's not fair to the kids that try to do something and you don't even know. Okay, what happens when they do this? Well, I don't know. I've never seen them do that before. Well, that's not a good way to do things. So.
Yeah, you're right. So as you coach all these years, what type of defenses do you like to always have that kind of helped you with your offense?
I think I like a defense that's sound, but I like them to be able to attack. If you can make negative plays, you're going to, I think, increase your chance for turnovers. That's what I know coming up when I was coaching in high school, and I still see it at our level. If you get hit in a spot, you're the ball carrier or whatever, or there's a play being run, and all of a sudden you get hit in a spot you didn't expect to get hit in, ball's on the ground.
Right.
So I think if you have the ability to be sound be gap sound. Obviously, don't give up big plays in the passing game, but at the same time, be able to attack within your system. I don't really think it matters what front you run. You know, we were talking. We ran the defense for a couple years at Peru. We were an odd front. That's what they had kind of gone to when we took over for a couple of years, and we kept running the odd front. But then we moved up one of our young guys that moved him up to the D coordinator, and I went back over to offense, and he knew the even front. So they ran the even front because, again, you got to do what you know.
Mm-hmm.
And, our head coach now, Coach Crean, he says, you will determine the front I run. So the personnel, he can run the same defense out of an odd front or an even front. So
depending what you do offensively, personnel-wise, that what brings out the front then? Is that how that it works?
Yeah, he's going to look more at what his personnel are. If he's got 4 good linemen, or with depth, then he's probably going to be an even front. You know, if they're a little short on guys, and you only got one guy that can maybe fit that nose guard, and you got 2 hands, he might run it out of an odd front. Also, you have to have linebackers to handle it. In a 3-4, those outside backers are really hybrid guys, but at times they got to be up on the line of scrimmage. So that's kind of depends. I think he's most comfortable in the even front. You got a lot more games you can play, simplicity wise with a 4 down lineman as far as twists and stuff. But you can do the same thing. Just walk out one of those down outside backers up, and you still got 4-man rush.
Right.
I mean, when we ran an odd defense, we had 3 down linemen and 2 outside linebackers. We rushed 4 every time.
Right.
We never only rushed 3. I don't even think we had a call. Because we felt like we got to at least get 4 guys rushing the passer.
Right.
Be sound that way. So. I think the ability to create turnovers, and at the same time not give up big plays in the back end. And I think if you can do those 2 things, you're going to have some success doing that.
I think, your personnel kind of grips what you can do on defense too. I mean, if you've got a lot of good D linemen, then it's always got to get to the 4-man front.
Yeah, and let it go.
You can always find the athletes, but sometimes it's hard to find those big inside techs.
You got to try to create pressure with extra guys.
Right.
And you can play. We play a lot of single high safety looks, which is, it seems like everybody we play they're going to be in some kind of 2 high, usually a rover look. So they'll be cover 4 on one side and some weird versions cover 6 with 4 on one side, 2 on the other, or they'll roll down, or they'll do a roll coverage, or that's a lot of that 4-2-5 concept that you're seeing. But we play a little more 1 high safety and then get a little more in the face of the slot receivers. And they do a great job. I mean, it's come from our head coach was 13 years either D coordinator, defensive coach in the CFL, and then our DB
you get an
coach.
extra guy there though.
Yeah, they do. But so does the other team.
Yeah, you're right.
And they can all be running.
And they can all be running at the line of scrimmage.
And then Coach Fields is our D coordinator and DB coach, and he played in the CFL, coached in the CFL, and then was just with the Tampa Bay the Vipers with the XFL. So we've got a couple of guys with kind of pro level knowledge, and and I think they do a good job of identifying what our abilities are with our kids and how to best use that. And then on offense, we've got guys that have been in this system we're running now. They played in it and coached in it, so it's been a really a pretty smooth transition for coming in and putting in a new system without spring football either. So
no, you didn't have spring football.
No, didn't have spring
because you guys weren't on campus at all last spring, right?
They sent everybody home. They were supposed to come back after spring break, and never did. We went to full online. Now this fall we were full on campus. We tested every week, and we were able to have classes, and we're face to face now. And so, with between our testing regularly, we were able to get a pretty good handle on things, and we didn't have very many problems. The biggest problem we had was we would get positive COVID tests on our team, and our depth didn't allow us to always, and we didn't get the result at that time. We weren't getting results right away. So we'd be getting ready to get on the bus sometimes. It never did happen, but you felt like it was happening. But
Getting on the bus,
Thursday or Friday, you'd find out that, a kid tested positive, and 3 of his buddies that lived together, they're all
quarantined too, yeah.
So then we would just start over again, and next week we get ready to play, and then we just kept going that way. But
How many games you get in this fall?
we got in 3, but we practiced all the way to about November 6th. So we played 3 in October, and then got ready every week, and then just never. And about the time we thought we were kind of through most of it, most everybody had been cleared, and didn't expect any problems. And the 2 teams that we could play at the end encountered the similar things, and they had to pull the plug. So it was a frustrating year all the way around. But you just do the best you can, and different people had different answers for it. Our South Division, most of them got all their games in.
So did the GPAC too, didn't they?
Yeah, the GPAC did too. The KCAC played 9 or 8. I know that they're looking for some more games. I know Kansas Wesleyan just advertised they're looking for somebody to play. But because the championship games, the playoffs are this spring. So if you qualify, and we think there'll be 3 teams out of our conference at least that'll qualify, I think they'd like to get a game under their belt before they start the 16-team playoff. But
Right.
you may not be able to do that. So, but I know Kansas Wesleyan's in a situation where they feel like they'll probably qualify out of that conference, and then I think they're looking to maybe get a game in before they play that first round of the playoffs.
Because Morningside's qualify. I think that's going to be the hard thing. Let's say you're like a Morningside where you have a chance to win all the games.
Oh yeah.
Then you got to turn around. He's got to bring them back in August.
Yeah. And
That to me is hard. That's the hard
that'll
part.
be hard because that if the further you go, the more it extends your season and the more wear and tear, and then the less chance you got to lift.
Right.
Right now our plan is to practice twice a week and lift hard on the off days, and we're just going to get ready for next fall. So we're thinking about right now. That could change with somebody maybe wanting a game, but the GPAC, most of them got all their games in that they were allowed, and then if they want to play a couple this spring, I don't think anybody will because they were. I think they had enough of it. After the fall, but. It's going to be a little different thing. And like you said, the turnaround coming out of late April or whenever the championship game takes place, the turnaround from that to
when you go back to camp,
you're gonna be in camp, and your kids are going to be lifting right away and in summer conditioning, and then you're going to be in camp in early August. So you basically got a 2-month turnaround.
Which if you get any injuries, major injuries.
If you get So usually you get hurt in the fall. By the next fall, you're okay.
Right.
Unless it's catastrophic. But,
right.
Here you get injured in late spring. Could be a tough deal. Everything's really. We look at a kid and go, man, he's a really good player. Yeah, he's a senior. He won't be back. Well, he might be because everybody got a grace period this year.
NEI did the same thing too, right?
Yeah. Everybody did it. So in the NEIA, it doesn't count as a season of participation, no matter how many games you play. And it doesn't count toward your, we have a 10-semester, full-term semester limit. So it's kind of like the NCAA rule, but ours is based on full attendance semester. So you have 10, 12 credit or more semesters that are going to count against you. And once you reach your 10, then you're done with your eligibility. But,
right.
For some kids, they'll drop down to 9 credits.
Right.
That semester doesn't count. You still got to have 24 the preceding 2 terms to be eligible for that.
I remember all those rules.
Yeah, you remember all those rules. Yeah. So the funny one for us is if we were going to play in the spring, you got to cross the bridge. So normally you just worry about your kids having the 24-hour rule met for the fall. Right. And then kids screw up, whatever, and then they'll get things straightened out in the spring and the summer, and you're ready to go again in fall. Right. But where you're playing if you were playing in the fall and the spring, they've got to carry that 24 credit over.
Like basketball does.
Yeah, like basketball.
Yeah.
And so that was something we never experienced or thought about.
No, football's never had to do that.
No, we never had to do that. So we planned if we were told we had to play, we made sure we knew who was eligible and who wouldn't be, and move forward.
Recertified and all that
stuff.
stuff.
Yeah. So you have to recertify them, and anybody new you bring to campus, obviously you'd have to get them turned around really quick.
Right.
Because if you want them eligible for the spring, you got to get cleared with the NEIA. So.
Right.
So there were some extra things there on top of all the other stuff we're dealing with.
So when you're at Nebraska City, tell me about your career, because you did everything. That's when I first met you, because I was at Dan and we recruited some of your kids.
Yep.
You had a great career. Talk a little bit about that career, because I think you had an excellent career there. In the rest of the
It was fun. We went there, and they hadn't had a lot of success. And that first year, we didn't have a lot of success, but played a lot of young guys. And my good friend Dave Novak said, for every sophomore you start in Class B football, that's a loss. So I think we started 7 sophomores, and we lost 7 games.
That's
but
true. We say the same thing in college as a freshman kid.
Yeah. So we won our last 2, and you'd have thought we'd have won the national championship. I remember when we won it at Waverly, and I mean they're jumping up and down and they're hugging each other, and I'm thinking, well, we won, but it's a good thing we had a fast kid return a kickoff. So, but that we kind of built off that. We had a good group of sophomores in the junior year, and then we had pretty good seniors to go with them, and then that group senior year, we ended up 8-2, lost to Boys Town in overtime. Boys Town lost to Mount Michael in overtime, and Mount Michael ended up being a state champ. So I mean, we were close, but we just had a heartbreaker up at Boys Town. But we had a great team, led Class B in scoring, and then we were 6-3 next year, didn't get in, and we just then we kind of started riding the waves a little bit, because when I went there, we were I think in the top third of Class B, but by the time we got it about 6 years in, they had rearranged the classifications, and now we were in the bottom third of B because they'd cut the class down.
Mm-hmm.
We went from 64 down to 32, and then now it's 22 now. And Class B just seems to be the size of school. Every kid plays sports. They're well coached, and you got a lot of great athletes. So it created a tough schedule. We kind of rode the waves. When we had talent, we were good and we were competitive. And if we didn't have talent, then we focused on playing hard and being physical. And that's one thing about Nebraska City kids. They are tough kids, and they like to hit things. Yeah. And so we at least knew that we were going to play hard. We expected that, and the kids bought into that, and we knew we'd be physical. Sometimes we didn't have the skill set to put up enough points or whatever, but, we felt like that's all we could control. And, so when we were good, and when we weren't, we at least we always talked about when you walk the next time that team saw that helmet somewhere, they remembered playing that team. They remembered that you were tough, that you were physical, and you played hard, and that the next time they saw that helmet with, in that case, the gold helmet, they would go, yeah, I remember those guys. So, we built on the things that we could control, and we felt like, like we talked about, we could control our attitude and we could control our effort. And our attitude was we were going to be tough. And our kids bought into that. And we had a lot of good wrestling at Nebraska City.
Yeah, you
got
did.
A lot of tough
They
kids.
still do today.
They're really doing well right now.
Yeah.
So that's kind of been the nature of it. We could kind of buy into that part of it. And, like I said, when we had good athletes, we were tough. We could play with anybody. And, the rest of the time, we just try to be smart, give our kids the best chance to win, and hope you could sneak one out sometimes. And every once in a while you did. So,
yeah.
And
when we got your kids up there to Dana, they were always tough kids.
Yeah.
I mean, they played hard, listened, showed up to everything,
Yeah.
didn't miss workouts.
No,
very disciplined young men.
Yeah, and that obviously that comes from their families, and then we reinforced it in what we did in the building and what we did on the field. So, and that's all you can really ask out of kids. You can't ask a kid to run a 4.2 if he's not,
if he doesn't have that fast twitch.
Unfortunately, if we could, we'd figure that out.
Yeah. So now, you finished up your career there. I remember when you did that. What made you decide to continue in college and everything when you went early retirement? Because you and Chuck both did it at the same time.
Yeah, Chuck was a little bit older than me, but I was 55, and Nebraska State had a buyout. So if you'd been there 20 years and you were 55, they would basically take your salary and split it up and pay it to you. And the idea was to kind of get you to when you could start drawing Social Security and those things. And I thought, well, that's a negotiated agreement. That means at any time the board could say, well, you know what, we're not going to do that anymore. And I thought, this is probably the right time. I've been here 20 years, and I can, I still had kids in college, and I could, if I needed to, I could use that buyout money to help them, and I could still coach football because I had talked to Coach Clark, and I knew I was going to do this probably even before the season started.
Okay.
So, and I talked it over with my family and my wife, and I'd even talked to my mom, who was longtime educator, and so I was kind of thinking about it, and I talked to Terry about, well, if I would do that, I'd like to come down and help at Peru, and he said, sure, we're glad to have you. You know, at that time they were it was hard to get very many adult male mature coaches down at the Peru area, just not a big population base. So about that time, then Chuck kept teaching one more year, but he had stepped away from coaching, and he's a Peru alum, Hall of Fame guy, and obviously a great coach, great guy. And so he and I ended up starting together and started going down there in the summer and doing things. And it's been just a lot of fun. It's been great. So you know, it was handy for me. And for a while, I kept teaching, and I would drive there, and I was part time. And then Dick Ramsey, who has more football knowledge in his little pinky than anybody I ever met. I was lucky to work with him for 3 years and just glean a lot of knowledge from him. And then he retired, and I kind of took over his football ops position and some stuff. And then Coach Schneider became the O coordinator, and then a year later became our head coach, and it just worked out really good for me. And you know, and then now I'm back to part time. I let Uncle Sam pay my salary and my teacher retirement, and I go down there every day, and just, you know, that's what I tell people. I said, I just get up and go have fun every day. You know, and it's worked out really good for me and for our family, and hopefully it's been a benefit to Peru State too.
How have you guys all adjusted? Because I mean, when you first started, you were in that kind of that independent conference.
Yeah,
and now you got in the heart of America. It was one of the best conferences in the nation, NAI. So how's that adjustment been for you guys? You went through the whole thing with it.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And we'd gone up and played down I think when you were there, and you know, we were kind of independent, and I would say our schedule was not overly tough. We kind of just had to fit where we could get games. Had some tough ones, had some not so tough, and then we really wanted to get in a conference. And our conference that we're in, the Heart of America, they wanted somebody that was committed to being in the NAIA. They had lost, William Jewell had
gone Division II, yeah,
and then the one that's in St. Louis.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, those two had jumped to Division II, and they were looking for somebody that's going to come in and be solid and be committed to the NAIA model, and we are. I mean, that's what we believe in. So the kind of the trade-off is our tuition structure is completely different because we're a state college. But they also looked, you guys are in a little bitty Peru. A lot of us are around Kansas City, and you know, we think that you're going to have a hard time recruiting because it's Peru. And so I think they thought, okay, that's all right. We want somebody that's going to be committed. It's got good facilities, and at that time I think we're in the process of getting the
new stadium. Yeah, they did a nice job with that.
And it's an outstanding facility. So I think we were appealing to that conference. Obviously, the idea of having a conference, not just for football, but for all our sports, and a really good conference was appealing to us, and we made the jump. Now, it's not easy because the talent level in that conference, and I think at the top level of NAIA, that talent level is equivalent to, I would say, D2.
Yes.
The difference is in the depth.
Right.
I think D2 has better depth than NAIA. Young kids play sooner at the NAIA level.
Yeah.
But we had to do a good job recruiting, and we had to change our recruiting model a little bit, and it took a while to do that. And you know, I think we started to turn the corner. We had several years that we were 7-4, but we were kind of yo-yoing a little bit. But we were in the conference and we could compete. And then you know, injuries or something like that were more depth related, and then the next year we might struggle. So I think we had the model. We just didn't have it consistently in place. But I think we've turned the corner. You know, the staff we've got right now has done a great job recruiting. Got a lot of good athletes coming in. We've retained a lot of good athletes, and our kids buy in into what we're doing, culture-wise, offensively, defensively, and especially special teams. Big emphasis on special teams and being smart on the special team side, doing some unique things there. I think, you know, it's going to serve us well in the conference. It's not going to be easy, but I think we've got the right recipe to be successful and to be one of those top teams down the road.
Well, I wish you a ton of success.
Yeah,
Coach.
no, we're excited. So
I mean,
be fun.
you've worked your guys' rears off, and it's good to see you kind of coming out and being one of the better teams in that conference.
Yeah, that's our goal.
It's a good conference because there's a lot of good teams, top to bottom.
Top to bottom. There, it's tough. So, you know, if you do a good job, you know you're gonna, you got a pretty good chance of making the playoffs, and you know that you're going to be one of the better programs around. So
Right.
it's a good measuring stick.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. Well, as we finish up the show here today, I really appreciate your time, Lou. Coming out after. I know you're busy signing kids and getting ready for spring ball, so I appreciate you taking the time out of your day and coming out.
I went and got my wife. She wanted popcorn from Menards. I got that, and I stopped at Target and got a potato masher because she broke the handle on that one. So I just make sure everything goes well at home and we're okay. But no, it worked out great. I was really excited that when you gave me a call and said, "Hey, come on over." And we've had great results with, everything we've done with Sideline Power has been outstanding.
We appreciate your opportunity to serve you.
Just, anybody is going to ask me about it, I'm going to say, hey, it's great. And this new facility is outstanding. So I kind of miss the old place, but
yeah, you stopped by there a few times.
Yeah, I've been there a few times, but no, I really appreciate what you guys do. You do a great service to us as coaches, make our job a lot easier. So thanks a lot to you guys.
Thank you, Coach. Well, I was a pro wrestler, right?
Oh, I know.
We got to finish up with the old hush, which means I want food or money. Not necessarily in that order.
Okay.
So you put your hand right here.
Okay.
And you go, hush, 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 hush. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Lou.